Let's go live now to Washington. Our Jennifer Schonberger standing by with Texas Senator Ted Cruz. Jen?
Thank you, Julie. Senator Cruz, thanks so much for joining me today here at the Trump Account Summit in Washington. We know that these Trump accounts are going to be rolled out on July 4th, $1,000 per every child born, but only for children during the duration of the Trump administration's term. Does Congress, do you see a way to codify this, to extend this?
100%. So I drafted the provision, the Trump accounts, and when we wrote it during the process of reconciliation. It was part of the working families tax cut that the president signed last 4th of July. And I think it may well be the single most important part of that bill because it is going to transform every child in America. Every child in America, number one, is going to realize the benefits of compound growth. And every child in America will have an investment account opened for them. Parents, employers, family can give $5,000 a year. That grows in a tax-advantaged account. But critically, that account is invested in the stock market. It's invested in the S&P 500. So, look, if you assume, let's say a little girl is born this year. She'll have an account open for her. That account will automatically be seeded with $1,000. And if her parents or family or employer puts $5,000 a year, if you assume that account grows at the historic rate of growth of the S&P 500, which is 7% a year after inflation, by the time that girl's 18, she'll have $170,000 in that account. And if she keeps contributing to it, by the time she's 35, she'll have more than $700,000 in that account. And that's not just the kids of rich people. That's the kids of a single mom waiting tables. You want to talk about changing the entire country, but secondly, this is what I'm really excited about. We are going to be creating a whole new generation of capitalists because every kid in America is going to be an owner of the biggest employers in America. So if you imagine 10 years from now, a little boy will pull out his phone, and instead of thinking big, scary corporations, instead of thinking, gosh, capitalism is terrible, that little boy will look at his phone and say, hey, I own $100 of Apple. I own $75 of Boeing or $50 of McDonald's. And suddenly our kids have a stake, an ownership. That is exciting. You're right, the way it is written, it is for a few years. I think it is 100% that Congress is going to extend this program and make it permanent. When I drafted it, that was absolutely my intention, to have this be a permanent and transformational program.
To your point, you said children are going to be able to pull out their phones and say, I own $100 in Apple or McDonald's or whatever. And we know that these dollars are going to be invested into the market. But we also know that a lot of these children growing up and a lot of Americans don't have the personal skill set to invest. So we know that American history is mandated in schools. Why not mandate at a federal level investment classes for middle schoolers and high schoolers so they have the tools, especially once they turn 18, to know how to manage their own money?
So I think the right place to do that is at the state and local level. I don't want the feds mandating curriculum. I don't want Washington deciding what curriculum your kids are taught, what curriculum my kids are taught. I think that should be at the state and local level. I think you're seeing a lot of state and local levels saying financial literacy matters. We're going to try to teach our kids. And one of the great things about these Trump accounts is they're going to be a natural vehicle for teaching financial literacy. Again, in second grade, the teacher will be able to say, oh, okay, everyone, pull out your phone and look at your Trump account. Look at what you invested originally. Look at what's been invested over time and look at the growth. And suddenly the stock market isn't just sort of strange numbers that sometimes appear at the bottom of a TV screen. Suddenly the kids are like, wait a second, look at this grow. And I think what you'll also see is you'll see kids as they get a little older saying, you know what, for my birthday, instead of giving me some toy I don't need, maybe you can give me $50 or $100 in my Trump account.
Well, that would be nice, have some stock.
Yeah, like that, the ability to think like investors, this will naturally prove financial literacy. And when you're an investor, it changes the way you view the entire economy, the entire country.
Switching gears, Senator, Democrats in the Senate are furious over what's been going on in Minneapolis. They are threatening to have a partial shutdown of the government later this week. How do you see things now? Are Republicans willing to give any consensus do you see coming to the middle at all, or are we barreling towards a partial government shutdown at this point?
Look, I think it is very likely that the Democrats are going to force a government shutdown. We saw a couple of months ago the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats forced that right before Christmas, and they did it really because they wanted to throw a temper tantrum, because they were mad and they wanted to show their left-wing base they really, really hate Donald Trump. If you look at immigration enforcement, one of the big reasons President Trump got reelected is the Democrats spent 4 years with open borders, and we saw 12 million people invade this country. My home state of Texas was on the front lines of that invasion. We are now seeing the president, number one, in terms of securing the border, do you know that illegal border crossings have dropped more than 99%? I mean, it's staggering success. And I got to say, I don't understand it. My Democrat colleagues have decided they are the party of illegal immigration. They are the party of the violent criminals and the gangbangers that they released, of murderers and child rapists. And I think it's really unfortunate. I think we are very likely to see a shutdown.
How long are we looking at, though? Is it at 45 days again?
It certainly could be. It's up to Chuck Schumer. I mean, the way the Senate works, you have to have 60 votes to fund the government. We only have 53 Republicans, which means we cannot pass this without at least 7 Democrats. The reason we had a 43-day shutdown is the Democrats wanted to throw a temper tantrum. Remember, Schumer is really afraid of being primaried. He's afraid of being primaried from the left. AOC is in New York. She's breathing down his neck. And so he's trying to appeal to the really angry left-wing activists. I think when it comes to ICE, the Democrats have decided, they're very explicit. They want to abolish ICE, which is to say they don't want to enforce immigration. They don't want to deport criminals. They don't want to deport gang members. Look, we saw one of my colleagues fly down to El Salvador and have daiquiris with an MS-13 gang member who's being prosecuted for human trafficking. It used to be a bipartisan agreement we should lock up criminals, and I think it's unfortunate the Democrats have abandoned it.
Really quick, Senator, before I let you go, do you think that Kristi Noem needs to go?
Oh, look, I like Kristi. I think she's doing a good job. I have encouraged the administration in terms of messaging. I think there are a lot of Democrats and a lot of folks in the media that are using what's happened in Minneapolis to try to change the narrative. And I think, listen, it is tragic when any American citizen is killed in an interaction with law enforcement. The 2 individuals who were killed were both actively impeding law enforcement. That's a dangerous thing to do. If you go and try to stop a police officer on the street, particularly if you're using a deadly weapon, there's a real risk of lethal force. But I think the tone in communicating matters. And so I would encourage Kristi and everyone else to focus really on, look, the people that are being arrested are really dangerous criminals. You're getting people who've committed horrific crimes that are being taken off the street. And I got to say, the protests in Minneapolis, they're not organic. They're paid for, they're organized, and they're designed. They're from the extreme left wing. They're designed really to foment chaos and violence. And I think every Democrat should ratchet down the rhetoric. You got a lot of Democrat politicians that are just throwing gasoline on the fire.
Senator, we'll have to leave the conversation there, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm joined here in Washington by Joe Lavorgna, counselor to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, where we are at the Trump Accounts event today. Joe, great to see you. Thanks for joining me.
Great to be here. Thank you.
I do want to kick off the conversation with these Trump accounts because I was looking at some projections. These Trump accounts being rolled out on July 4th, the Treasury giving $1,000 to every child born during the duration of this administration. And if you were to contribute $1,000, if you would have that $1,000, I should say, you would earn $5,800 by age 18, $18,000 by age 28, and if you contribute $5,000 a year, you could have over $1 million by age 28.
Right.
How does this work, though, exactly?
So essentially, as you said, you sign up on trumpaccounts.gov, look for Form 45, 47 when you're doing your taxes. Everything goes live, or you get your money effectively around July 4th, $1,000. Then you could contribute up to $5,000 annually. And based on compound interest and historical equity returns, that $1,000 plus the $5,000 per year annual max contribution is worth over $300,000 by age 18. By age 28, it's worth almost 1.1 million. Again, maximum contribution, the initial 1,000 plus 5,000 every year thereafter.
Is it automatically invested in an index fund?
It'll be a low-cost index fund, something analogous to like the S&P 500.
President Trump held a summit today to encourage Americans to sign up for Trump accounts. Yahoo Finance Fed correspondent Jennifer Schonberger spoke to Kraken co-CEO Arjun Sethi at the event about the possibility of adding crypto investments to these accounts and more.
If you take a step back, post-World War II, Japan, Netherlands, just the rebuilding of Europe and Asia, we had a lot of folks building out what they call prosperity accounts, is what we call it today. In the United States, we call this Social Security, but it was like poverty prevention. And so what you've seen is that those assets post-World War II might have started in the billions, but today they're 50 trillion plus. And all of those accounts have been towards sort of the reverse. Instead of thinking about investing in retirement, they've been investing in the younger age individuals. And so Australia, Japan, Netherlands, Europe, et cetera, they've been able to do this quite effectively in investing. And so people argue capitalism and financial inclusion. What it really means is that you have multiple generations that have the ability, what I call a forward mobility, to invest in assets all over the world, including in their local region.
And how are you specifically looking to play a role in these accounts? How is Kraken looking to play a role?
So Kraken is in the crypto ecosystem. So we're all about giving access to capital, giving access to new assets. So today we talk about BTC and ETH. Soon it's going to be commodities.
Bitcoin and Ether.
That's right. Bitcoin and Ether and alternative crypto assets. But a lot of the alternative crypto assets are now giving people access to just the US dollars. And the next thing that people want to invest in are US companies or companies all over the world that are emerging. So crypto is about just giving more forward mobility all over the world. We use the word financial inclusion, but it's more about giving the same rails that we're used to in developed markets into emerging markets. Mm-hmm. And I think what's great about programs like Trump accounts is it just gives more people an understanding of what they can participate in at a faster and faster pace when you think about open financial rails.
Now, speaking of participating in capitalism, we know that you have an IPO coming down the pike here, perhaps sometime in the first quarter. Could you give us any sense of the timing on that?
Look, we're a private company today, and we've been profitable since day one. Last 5 quarters, we've released our financials, which is great. I think what's more important is how do we operate within this realm of how we think about financial services and products. And so we want to continue to proliferate that regardless if that's private or public.
Do you have any idea what price per share could be at this point, or it's too early?
No, I mean, look, we confidentially file, and that's the most we can speak to it.
And I also want to talk about, there's some major legislation moving through the Senate right now as it pertains to the market structure bill and crypto. Yeah. What are your thoughts on where the bill stands at this time? Do you side with the CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong? Did you have issues with this bill, or do you support it?
Look, we have worked on these types of legislation outside the United States already. In Europe, we went from design to implementation. And here in the United States, we're in catch-up mode. And so a lot of these arguments around what people are talking about today, which is yield, listings, how do we work with protocols, getting them onto the exchange, global liquidity, et cetera, have already been figured out. And I think what you're seeing today is, yes, in terms of what Brian is talking about in terms of yield, I'd say we're very much locked in and arms with them around what's best for an American consumer, what's best for our issuers, companies, protocols, et cetera. And I think that's where we're going to continue to have the conversation with lots of folks around the table on the banking side and the Senate financial side, et cetera. I think most people understand what we're trying to do and what the future is going to look like. But a lot of the times people get lost in the nuance of well, what happens now in zero sum? If you're going to add trillions, 100 trillion plus of market participation worldwide into this ecosystem, it's better to reframe that conversation, similar to how we're reframing Trump accounts versus the Social Security layer.
Thank you so much for your insight. So appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
It's great to have you on the program. That's Chief Executive of Kraken.